One.
Yes.
All right, so here I am with Ari. So Ari is a Dutch guy who learned Russian to a very nice level, and he actually has a YouTube channel for the Russian audience where he makes videos in Russian, and right now he is teaching or helping people learn the Russian language, people like me who want to learn. So very nice to have you here, Ari. A pleasure.
It's great to be here, Mark.
So before we get on with the interview, why don't you just do a short introduction? Because how did it go from getting this interest in Russian and now you have a channel? Why don't you just talk a little bit about where it all started?
All right, so it all started, I think, like 5, 6 years ago. I never expected myself to be speaking Russian, and in high school, elementary school, I wasn't too good in languages or not that interested. But in the end of 2014, I had a colleague. I was doing a student job, and this colleague, he was from Ukraine. So he moved to the Netherlands when he was about, I think, 4 or 5 years old. He said, "Hey, I'm from Ukraine. Would you want to learn some Russian words, for fun?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" We were sitting in a bar having some beers, so yeah, sure. And then he said, first words that he told me were "No ti blin kazoo," which not the nicest words. Like you wouldn't say that to everyone in Russia, but I mean young guys like that. So those words literally translate as like, "Oh, you're a damn goat." My interest in the language, it was peaked a little bit, but I didn't have a reason to learn Russian. So in the next year, I guess I spent maybe 10, 20 hours just listening to some audio courses, just, if I was traveling by train somewhere, because to not waste the time kind of, and just because I found it interesting. Then end of 2015, I moved to Madrid to study there for a year. Uh, and then, first I wanted to learn some Spanish to go there. Well, while studying there, there was a very cute Russian girl in my class. And now we're already together for 5 years, something like that.
Wow.
So she, first since I knew a couple of sentences in Russian, I just said some of them to her while we started dating in the beginning. And then, yeah, things just snowball from there. I started practicing more with her, then started like in the beginning of 2016, I more seriously started learning it. Still practicing with her. And then in 2016 in June, like a little before that, she asked me if I wanted to go to Moscow to see her parents. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? So then I went to Moscow. I had a great time. It was really cool. Went to Moscow, to St. Petersburg as well, and down to the Black Sea. So that was a very good experience. And then we came back. We decided that she was going to move to Holland. And now a couple years later, we're still together, living together here in Holland. And all the time, we just slowly continued learning and practicing with her as well, watching some Russian movies instead of watching regular English movies. And somewhere around with the channel, I started last year, I think March 2019, just for fun, just to upload a video of me speaking Russian. And that got a lot of positive reactions, so I just made another video the next week, and then another video. I haven't stopped yet making videos, and people like watching
Wow.
them, so that was very funny. I never expected myself to make YouTube videos, but it just kind of happened.
I know. And things have gone very well for you because your channel is quite big. You have like 70,000 subscribers. That's awesome.
Yeah. Recently, it got to 70,000, which is, I don't know. It's very unbelievable. It's very unreal to think about that. That just practicing a language and people find it so interesting, which is very cool experience.
Right. Ah, okay. So you had a girlfriend, I I ask people what are the reasons to learn Russian, and there seems to be two reasons. One, a girl, or two, the literature. So for you, it was a girl.
That's true. Yeah. Without her, I would not be speaking Russian. Would have never been that interested in the language.
For sure. So you went to Russia, and I'm sure you got to speak a little bit of Russian, but it must have been when you got back home, you started to take it really seriously, right?
Well, a little bit, kind of like a couple months before, like we booked the tickets to go to Russia, and then she told me, look, my parents, they don't speak English. Like very few people in Russia, they speak English well. So, oh, all right, I need to put in more practice to put my Russian at least at the basic level, so that when I get there, I can, communicate with at least her parents and her friends. Um, and that was pretty difficult. I mean, especially if you only been learning the language for a couple months, seriously, like every day. And I was at the level where I could basically, there was a table with food and everything. I could point at everything like хлеб, помидор, передай мне соль, like, like bread, tomato, pass me the salt, please. Yeah, so when I got back, I was more motivated to learn it more. It's true.
That's awesome. And for many people, I think we think Russians are kind of a mystery. They're like mysterious for us. We don't know what they do or how they're like. But I'm sure that as your Russian improved, also your experiences with them also improved. Was this the
Mhm.
case?
Uh, yeah, already from the beginning, my experience in Russia were pretty good because if you genuinely show interest in the language, like you're generally trying to learn the language and show interest in the culture, then I think it's very difficult for any person anywhere on the earth to kind of not appreciate that. And because there are so few people trying to learn Russian, compared to like more popular languages such as Spanish, French, or Chinese or Japanese. So once there's a foreigner who tries to speak Russian with Russian people, they're always very happy. Like they're very open, very happy when you do that. Have you
That's
had the same experience?
absolutely. That's been my experience as well. So I am a teacher, and I actually have a lot of um, students from Russia. And I remember one student of mine, maybe he was a bit nervous or it seemed like he was a little serious, but I told him, oh, I'm studying Russian now. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, say something to me. And I'm like, Привет, меня зовут Марк, я из Америки, штат Ohio. And he's like, oh, whoa. And like immediately after that, he just like opened up and became like this super fun and nice and easygoing person. It was such an awesome experience, but it shows you the power of language.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. If you just really show interest and try to learn the language, then people open up very quickly, I've noticed. And especially for Russian, like you said, if you just say the complete basic phrases, it's already enough in most cases.
Uh-huh.
To, to,
Well, for the most part, I think what you said is correct, that if you're showing interest in the language and the culture, people will be comprehensive with you. But maybe in some cases, not in the States or in England, because some of them just assume that you're going to speak English or that your English should already be good. So, but
that's true. I think for English-speaking countries, this is not completely the case because there are so many people trying to learn English, and if you just like you're one out of a million other people, but if you do it for a language that is not too common, then suddenly it does work like that.
of course, I mean, even people have the idea that maybe Spanish would be like that. But if you are a foreigner in Mexico, people are going to really want to talk to you because I mean, sure, Spanish is a widely spoken language, but maybe it's just like normal people don't have the normal interactions of just speaking with foreigners. So that becomes interesting as well. But so how would you say your approach to Russian was? Because lots of people really have distinctive approaches, and you are someone that has achieved a nice level. But how did you start studying? What did your process look like? How did you study from day to day? What did your approach look like, Ari?
I never really tried to like. I never had the goal to become conversational in Russian or to speak Russian. It just kind of happened because from the beginning I was speaking with my girlfriend, and I just put in some time, like when I was biking to my university, for example, like it's a little, and later to my internship, it's like 20 minutes that you have of time on the bike, and you just plug in audio courses to kind of not waste time. And I did that, and I just started watching some Russian series and movies in Russian, whereas otherwise I would have watched English movies or English series. I just thought, well, let's switch it up to Russian, because if I'm learning it, then I might as well not waste my time. So I'd say my approach was very relaxed, and I didn't really try to. I just focused on creating like simple habits that I was doing every single day. Like, listening to good audio courses, doing some app for vocabulary, and just making sure that I immerse myself in the culture through movies and series by hearing it. And I think that paid off in the end.
That's awesome. Oh, for sure. So basically, did you actually start watching movies or series from the beginning, or did you take some time to work your way into it? How did you do that?
Pretty much from the beginning, yeah. Like I remember watching some movies when we just started dating together with my girlfriend, but we would watch the movies with English subtitles because otherwise it would have been very difficult for me to understand anything. And later on, just yeah, I think for the first year at least, I was watching everything with English subtitles. And later on, I switched to when my Russian got good enough. I sometimes switched to having Russian subtitles because then you hear Russian, you see it, like you read it,
Sure.
and then you get it like audio and visual inside, and it's a lot easier to understand. And yeah, so I highly recommend people if they want to learn Russian to start watching movies and series right away, because it's just a great way to get your brain used to the language. And I mean, most people are watching series or movies anyway already in English. So if people are interested in learning Russian, then it's a no-brainer to already start watching movies and series because it doesn't cost any extra time. It just gives you basically practice for free.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And one thing that I thought was interesting, and I know you've talked a little bit about this before, is that, some people will tell you, why watch a foreign movie in a foreign language because you're just going to be reading the English all the time. You're not going to learn much. But you're clearly someone who's had success doing this. Why do you think this is good to actually do it this way, despite of what many people might say?
I think those people have a valid point in one thing, that some people, they just think that, all right, I'm just going to be watching movies, and if I do that for a year, I'm going to be fluent. This is not going to happen. Like, if you just watch movies, it should be a supplementary activity to something that you're already doing. But if you want to get to a nice level in Russian or any language, I think you should give your brain a lot of opportunity to hear the correct Russian in this case. And if you, let's say you spend like half an hour every night watching a series, or one hour, and you do that 5 days a week, then over the course of a year, that's already 100 to 200 of hours that you gave your brain the opportunity to hear the correct language. And yeah, the subtitles in English, that of course you're going to be watching it, you're going to be reading that to understand everything. But in the end, your brain is still hearing correct Russian, and it should have an impact.
Right.
I feel it.
Of course. And what I've done so far is, honestly, I've done a mix of all three things: watch Russian with English subtitles, watch Russian with Russian subtitles, and watch Russian without any subtitles. So language learning is a long process. And, I don't mind taking an hour or two and watching a movie with English subtitles because I'm going to understand it so much better if I didn't. And later, when I watch it again, I mean, I can use the Russian subtitles, or I can listen to it just without subtitles. And I think you're much better off for it than just jumping straight into it.
Yeah, exactly. And especially your approach that you just said, if you're going to rewatch a movie sometime, then you already know the plot, you already know what's going to happen. And then the context makes it so much easier to actually understand what they're saying in Russian.
Absolutely. And for example, when you were listening to podcasts or doing some other activities, what was the ratio of, let's say, just actively really trying to take it in versus, you know, passive input, as they say?
I think it should be around three, or it's not, it should be as much active as possible. But
Exactly.
I didn't do that because, like I said, I was either commuting by bike to my university or to my internship. And while biking, it's very difficult to be active, focusing all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Have an
And
accident.
yeah, exactly. Well, we're Dutch, so accidents don't happen too often on the bike. But
You guys are the pros.
yeah, exactly. I wouldn't recommend other nationalities to be biking and listening to something at the same time because it distracts you a lot. But we have a very good bike path. We're no cars are, so it's not that dangerous. So as much active listening as possible. But I think the main problem when you tell people to do active listening is that it's very tiring. And if you go into something let's say every day you want to listen to a podcast, you want to do active listening all the time, then at a certain point you're going to create friction because it's pretty much work to active listen. So I'd say just just listen and then see how much if you're in the mood to do like active focused listening, then do that. But if you're not completely in the mood, then it's better to still just listen passively instead of actively.
Right. I mean, I try to do a bit of active studying every day, but you know, there's so many points in the day where you can just listen.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. So our approaches have been fairly similar up until now, but one of the things I've been debating for a long time is, okay, the role of Russian grammar, because it's famously difficult, right?
Hmm.
So I have been studying Russian for maybe like um, you know, oof, not long, but like 10 months, around 10 months, a little more. And I decided that I was going to study the first year and a half without doing any kind of grammar work. You know, I I listened to audio, I read the podcast transcripts while listening, I watched movies, and I was able to achieve what I was able to achieve. But I've been debating what should I do in regards to the grammar. How did you approach that subject? Because I'm sure a lot of people would really like to know.
Um, I approach it pretty similar, like speaking first and grammar only is a supplementary activity. Because if you're gonna focus on grammar first, like I know some people that have tried to do the grammar first approach to Russian, and they just see they quickly learn about all the six cases. They learn about perfective, imperfective verbs. They learn about verbs of motion, all that not fun grammar stuff, and
Yeah.
you can become overwhelmed pretty quickly by doing that or thinking about all the cases that you need to learn. So if you focus on speaking first, then suddenly you will start to want to learn grammar because at a certain point you're just if you for example you're saying I'm walking to school, but you don't know how to say like how to conjugate I walk and you say я ходить в школу, like
Uh-huh.
I to walk to school, like you want to know how to say я хожу в школу,
Wow.
like how to conjugate it well. So I think that is one good thing to first focus on speaking so that then you know which grammar you need because Russian is quite some advanced grammar as well, like gerunds, for example,
Mm-hmm.
which you meet them sometimes while Russian speak, but as a foreigner, you kind of don't need them. And if you start learning that stuff, then you become very overwhelmed with all the grammar. So I would say focus on speaking first and then just follow any good course basically, because they introduce grammar most of the time like very, bit by bit, like
Right.
building on each other. And if you do that, then and once in a while, if you feel like you struggle with a specific grammar aspect, like with cases, with the genitive case, for example, then you just Google it and then look at the tables and then, look at the table for a week or two, and then you'll pretty much know it better. And if you then focus on incorporating that grammar knowledge into your speech, then I think things will go pretty quickly. But if you're not speaking, you don't have the opportunity to use the grammar, and then it just goes in and out, and it's not really effective.
I like that. And mm. yeah, just take it little by little, because I mean, when you look at these grammar points, you're probably going to even notice a lot of the ones that you may have picked up naturally. That will happen. And yeah, I've just heard about so many people starting with grammar, feeling lost. You see like things on Facebook like, I've been studying Russian for 7 years and I just don't know, what to do. So I was kind of aware of this dilemma before. That's why I consciously took this kind of extreme approach of just to forget about it. But I'm happy I did, because I'm also not so in my head. I'm not like, okay, привет, and then I'm thinking of how to conjugate everything. I'm just like saying whatever I say, and I'm going to improve through time because I'm always spending time with the language.
I think you're taking a very good approach, and especially if you've only been studying for 10 months. I watched some of your videos. You're
Excuse me,
already.
did I say 10 months? Did I say 10 months? I meant like, I, my mistake. It's been like 20 months. It was like a little over a year and a half.
Okay, maybe I didn't hear it
No, I
correctly,
think
but
I did say
still.
10 months. That was my mistake. It's been a couple months over a year and a half.
Okay. Well, still, the way you speak Russian for that time frame, it's still good because everyone understands completely what you're trying to say, even though there might be some grammatical mistakes. Um, it's way better to first get comfortable speaking and get people to understand what you're saying, get your message across, and then you can always fix the little grammatical things. And especially from a foreigner, uh, Russian people are not expecting you to speak without mistakes, which is also great.
Exactly. They're just so blown away that you can even communicate, kind of.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think I did say 10 months. My mistake. It's been like, it's been 20 months, a little over a year and a half. But I mean, I'm very happy with my progress in this time. I think, wow, this is how Ari speaks Russian at 5 years, or I'm speaking, respectively at a year and a half or a little more. When I get up to 5 years, I'm gonna speak pretty nice as well.
I really wish I made videos like a couple years earlier of myself, so I really could have had like a timeline of progress because I only like 2019, so only after over 3 years already I made my first video. And before that, I don't like. Why would I have made videos of myself? So I don't have anything. If I would have made videos like after half a year already, maybe just for myself, maybe already on YouTube, then it would have been very nice to share those with people who are also learning. Because now they just see the product. What happens after a couple of years? But I think most people find it way more also very interesting to know what happens after half a year, what happens after a year. And I think if I hear you speak, that you're very much on the right road.
Thank you. And we're kind of like in the reverse state, because I think like, wow, he has this platform where he's speaking, I don't know, maybe once or twice a week, and he's doing these monologues and he's getting really nice Russian practice. I don't have a Russian girlfriend. My girlfriend's from Venezuela. So, for me, this is like a great idea, it's just to do it like this. And that's pretty cool. So I'm, you know, I'm not so far along in my Russian studies as you are, but I've kind of had this idea. I did my year and a half progress video, and I recorded 2 classes of mine for month 19 and month 20. And I want to keep this going like every month, as opposed to making like a 6 months. Here's how I speak after 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, because it's more of a kind of like the journey. I think that's pretty cool to document.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you make this monthly video to show how your Russian is doing, and that will also be very valuable for people, for students that want to learn, because they can see how your progress was, the things that you did, and then you can kind of put it on a timeline to see how, if they're doing well, or if they could put some more effort into specific things.
So right now, do you just speak Russian with your girlfriend since your Russian's so good, or do you kind of mix it up with English or some other language? How do you do it?
Yeah, we mix it up because, like, we're living in Holland in the Netherlands, so we need Dutch here, and she's also learning Dutch. But in the beginning, we spoke mainly English because my Russian was bad,
Of
and I
course.
just tried to speak some Russian, and it gradually got better. So, and then when she came to the Netherlands, it was really a mix of Dutch, English, and Russian, which got very bad because at a certain point she was just speaking to her girlfriends back home or other Russian girls that are here. She would be plugging in English words into her Russian speech, and
Of
you
course.
know it sounds a little arrogant if you do that as a Russian speaker.
Hmm.
'Cause, so yeah, then we decided, all right, let's see if we start a conversation in one language, uh, try to keep the entire conversation in that language because otherwise everything gets messed up, and that's not what you want.
For sure. I mean, just being able to speak multiple languages, you have moments where you say something that you know is not right, even in your own language, and it's just the influence of the languages that you have swirling around in your head.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because how many languages do you know? I can imagine you also mix it up quite often.
English, native, Spanish advanced, and Russian beginner. So that's what I've got.
Uh-huh. Well, three languages.
Um, and one of the things that was interesting that I noticed about you, and it's so this is something that I hear a lot in the Japanese community, is that they like to play video games as a learning method. And it's the only community that I've heard about that does this, except for you. You've actually played video games in Russian as a, I don't know, as a part of um, your process or your journey. So I thought that was pretty interesting. How much Russian do you think it's possible to learn from video games? Because I think this is a really interesting idea.
I think at the moment it's unfortunately not possible to learn a lot of Russian through video games because there are just not too much good video games that you can play with Russian voice acting, like maybe 5 or 10 or so. And as well, it's kind of like with watching movies and series. You first start with with just the Russian voice with subtitles if possible, and then you once you get better, you go to Russian voice and Russian subtitles, and then in the end you can try playing it without subtitles. But it's just something extra to do.
Uh,
Like if you're already learning it, if you're already speaking, and you also like to play video games, then why not play video games in Russian?
that's true. And I was almost so tempted to do it because I haven't played video games since I was like 17. And honestly, I have a little bit of an addictive personality. And I mean, like the things that I like, I really like. I used to be a runner in the States. I was obsessed with running. Then I learned the guitar. I was obsessed with the guitar. Now I'm like, languages have been my thing for a while. And right now it's Russian. And I'm glad that my obsession or my strong interest is something positive. But I've been very kind of worried to bring in like this video game into my world. So it's so hard not to sometimes, especially because like I would kill to play The Witcher. I really want to play that game, or even
Mhm.
Metro, which seems cool. I think I got that recommendation from you, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to not give in to temptation.
Yeah, I got the same thing. I played a lot of video games when I was younger in high school. And then, well, I started university. I basically stopped because, you know, studying, partying, there's kind of no time to play video games. And you also don't want to be sitting at home. Like, you want to go out and do something. And then later, after I graduated, then sometimes, like, especially during winter, then there's not too much going on. And, you know, if you get some time alone, like, otherwise you may watch a movie at night. You can also just play a video game. And especially if you're learning Russian and you can kind of talk to yourself, all right, I'm just going to play a video game in Russian. So I'm not completely wasting my time. I'm still doing something
Yeah.
useful. So, but for you, I would recommend to play the Metro series because the games, they have a very, like a pretty short storyline, like only 10 to 20 hours. So even if you completely go crazy in them, like very obsessed, it's only like a week or so that you're playing them. Because if you would pick a large game, for example, you can play it for a long time,
Oh,
such as The Witcher 3. I think that game can be played for 1500 or maybe longer. So yeah, it's better to start with the simpler games.
Well, I'll leave this as an option for the people who have more self-control than I do. So go for it, guys, if you can. And did you ever get into any of the literature? Because like I said, I think people are either into the girls or the literature when they learn Russian. Did you even get into the literature? Not really.
Yeah, I did. The first book that I read was a couple years ago. My girlfriend gave me a dual language book from Chekhov, like
Uh-huh.
Chekhov short stories. So it was one page, it had everything in Russian, and in the other page, everything in English. So you can kind of try and see if you can read one sentence and then look it up on the other side in English. And those books work very well. I recommend them to anyone who's trying to read Russian. And then in 2018 summer, so that was after 2.5 years seriously studying Russian, I read Master and Margarita.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really completely get it most of the time, but I just, got through the book. Like I read each sentence. Then in 2019, at the end of the year, or the last half year, basically, I read Crime and Punishment.
Wow.
But I think what helped me a lot was the fact that when like 7 or 8 years ago, I read it in English. So I already knew the plot, how it was going to go. So that made it easier for me to understand it. And like I said, it took me half a year to get through.
Wow.
So that's a long time.
I got so excited when you said Master and Margarita because one of the things I did recently was watch the TV series Master and Margarita from 2005, and I really enjoyed it. Like I didn't know that I was going to like it as much as I did, and I want to read that book, and at least eventually. And last weekend, I think it was, I started reading the first couple pages. Some things was easier than others, but just the fact of watching the series, it did really help with my comprehension in a lot of parts. So,
Well, with each Russian book, it's going to be difficult the first 10 pages or 20 pages because you really need to get used to the way the author writes. Because each author is different, and some of them are written in especially the Russian literature, like 1840s, some in 1940s. So some of them have a lot older language, some of them more modern. So the first couple of 10, 20 pages are always going to be pretty difficult to get through. So don't give up before you go through the first chapter, basically.
Okay, cool. And right now I want to ask you something about, they're kind of two different questions, but they're similar questions in a way. What advice would you give to someone who is just about to study Russian, thinking about studying Russian, and the other part is someone who is studying Russian and is kind of struggling?
All right. So first, the first question. If a person is just starting to learn Russian, I would advise that person to just keep it fun, because I think a lot of people try to overcomplicate things and try to make it so, all right, today I need to learn X amount of new words. I need to listen to this amount of lessons. I need to go through these amount of exercises. And I think if that's an approach that for most people is not going to work out in the long run, because you need to keep it fun in order to really get progress. Like if you're not looking forward to listening to your audio course or podcast, or not looking forward to watching a movie in Russian, then it's really difficult to keep up the correct behavior and the correct habits in the long run. So try to keep it fun, and yeah, that's the main thing. Keep it fun. Oh, and speak a lot,
And speak
because
a
if
lot.
you're not speaking, then a problem that a lot of people get is they start overcomplicating things. And first, oh, I already know this grammar, and then it becomes difficult to to just speak, to just get into this thing. All right, I'm just speaking, and whatever happens happens. If I make mistakes, it's fine. because people will understand me anyway, or at least I will hopefully make myself understood.
For
So yeah,
sure.
those people.
For sure. And I think actually you answered both of the, in my opinion, you answered both of the questions before. I mean, because basically you say if you're just starting, you know, do something fun. And if you're struggling, I think the answer is to do something fun. Like maybe you're struggling because you're not enjoying so much, but if you just kind of take a few steps back, really think about your entertainment in the language and enjoying the language, like it comes as a natural like not consequence, but a result of enjoying the language.
Exactly, because if you're not having fun, then it's going to be very difficult to practice every single day. And yeah, if you're not practicing at least a couple times per week, then your progress is not going to be that good.
Right. And I was going to ask you if you've had motivation problems or what you would do to combat that. I know in how I do is just like maybe if I don't want to do like concentrated kind of focused work, I will just maybe watch an episode of something interesting, and for me, it like gets me to the next day, and maybe the next day I feel better, and then I can just keep the train rolling.
Yeah, exactly. Do the same thing. Like, well, the main thing, for example, is if you're learning words, if you're doing exercise every day, and you get stuck in this rut, then yeah, go watch movies, go watch series, mix it up. Um, yeah, yeah, that's basically it.
Cool.
That's my answer as well.
And when you're speaking with Russians, I'm sure they really like it, but are they more likely to correct you or just kind of try to understand what you're saying and just kind of go along with it?
Um, yeah, people just try to really have a conversation, basically all the time, virtually all the time, because it's also what I focus on. And I found that if you just make little mistakes, but people still understand you, then they don't care about the little mistakes. If you're saying like one common word or one common expression wrong, like a couple times in a row, then most of the time people will say something about it. But that's fine since it's a common saying. You really want to improve your, the way what you do as well, the way how you say it. But most of the time, just people also just want to have a regular conversation with you, and that's also what I want. So people
Right.
don't really correct me that
Oh.
much.
That's probably better for the conversation purpose, because when you get corrected, sometimes it's like it actually throws off your enthusiasm or like your interest in the conversation. It kind of breaks the rhythm of the conversation, you know?
Yeah, it just stops everything. Like, and then what were we talking about? And you need to get into the conversation again. It's pretty difficult to do that then.
Right. So what would be, this year I wanted to go to Russia, and I plan to stay there for a month and just go hardcore studying Russian. And I told myself if I study Russian for a year and a half, I will give myself the treat of taking a trip there. But of course, due to current situations, that's not possible. But when that time comes and we can actually travel to Russia, in your case, go back, what are some things that people need to know about traveling there? Any good advice or things to expect so we're not so kind of surprised or I don't know, shocked? I'm not sure. Any kind of advice like this?
Um, it's gonna be difficult to say that. Although some things I would want people to know is probably that if you're traveling to Russia, then you pretty much are gonna need to have like at least some level of Russian in order to get around, unless you're just staying in the center of St. Petersburg, in the center of Moscow. Because once you get a little bit, if you go to some villages or cities outside of Moscow, the level of English goes down pretty badly. And the second thing is that it's a very common thing that people say in Russia, and it's Moskva это не Россия, and it means that Moscow is not Russia. So that if you go to Moscow, then you're gonna be seeing like the capital of the country, and it's very different than how some of the regions look. So if you really want to see like the real Russia, then it might be nice to see if you can go for a longer tour for a couple of weeks, for example, and also go to some other cities that are not Moscow or not St. Petersburg.
Yeah, I completely get that. And I've heard that saying many times, and I've asked my students, and they say, no, it's actually true. Moscow is not Russia. But, it makes sense. It's like saying, I'm from the States. It's like saying New York is the state. It's like the New York is like just some far, it's awesome. Yes, it's in America, but it's not like the best representation of, you know, standard normal America.
No, exactly. Because if you compare Manhattan to the Midwest, for example, then I think you're going to see very large differences.
For sure. Hey man, so it's been so nice talking to you. I really appreciate you coming on. Any last words to all the Russian learners out there?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it if you can keep it, if you can keep it fun for yourself and find a way to practice every single day. You can just, even if you practice just speaking to yourself, at least you're going to be practicing in a way. And don't think too much about the goal of getting somewhere. Just do something every single day, and before you know it, you'll be speaking Russian pretty nicely.
Right. And you're actually offering a course or you have a website for people to learn Russian. Can you talk about
Yeah.
that for a minute?
Yeah, so I got a website called learntherrussianlanguage.com, and I also started a YouTube channel a couple months ago, the same Learn the Russian Language, where I speak in English and how people can learn Russian. Because a lot of people were asking from my Russian videos on, hey, how do I learn, or how did you learn Russian? Because I have a friend who's also learning Russian. And yeah, if you're gonna, I made some videos like in Russian about that, but that's not really helping people that want to learn.
No, no.
So I thought to do it like that. So yeah, to learn the Russian language, you can find more information on like the methods and everything that I use on how to learn Russian.
Perfect. Well, thanks again. I'll put all the information in the description. Thanks a lot and pleasure talking to you, Ari.
Yeah, it was great talking to you too.
All right, cool.